Your Excellency, Mr. Kitack Lim, Secretary General of the International Organization, Mr. Jan Dusík, Director of Europe Office, the United Nations Environment Programme, Honourable Dr. José Herrera, Minister for Sustainable Development, the Environment and Climate Change, the Honourable Joe Mizzi, Minister for Transport and Infrastructure, and the Honourable Dr. George Vella, Minister for Foreign Affairs. Thank you for joining us, and I will invite you to join the stage for the opening session, which will then be followed by a ministerial session, which will be chaired with the rest of the meeting by the Honourable Dr. George Vella. So if you want to join the stage, thank you very much. So, Your Excellency, Mr. Kitack Lim, Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization, will now give his keynote address to the meeting.
Excellency Minister Mizzi, Excellency Minister Dr. George Vella, and Excellency Minister Dr. José Herrera, and also Minister Richards and Minister Mario Dimitriadis, and the distinguished delegates, and ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to be here today at the beginning of the event to mark 40th anniversary of the REMPEC, a vitally important but often unsung player in the battle to protect one of the world's most sensitive and vulnerable sea area. The Mediterranean represents about 1% of the world sea area. But although it is relatively small, but this is one of the most important international waters on our planet. As one of the cradles of ancient civilization, it has been subject to human intervention for thousands of years. Today, more than 20 nations have a Mediterranean coastline. Mediterranean coast cities are home to more than 80 million people, and this figure is set to increase substantially in the coming years. Every summer, over 100 million tourists flock to the Mediterranean beaches and this sea area. This number is expected to double by 2025. The Mediterranean Sea is also a major thoroughfare for international shipping, with the Suez Canal at its eastern end and providing a strategic link between East and the West that serves thousands of vessels every year. It provides food, work, and pleasure for millions of people and support more than 10,000 species, many of them endangered nowadays. But landlocked and under extreme pressure from human activities, the warm waters of the Mediterranean Sea find it hard to clean and renew themselves. This is not an area of the sea which recovers easily from pollution, damage, or exploitation, which is why it is so important that we take active steps to protect this sea area, from the pressure we put it under, and why it is such a great pleasure to offer the Regional Marine Pollution Emergency Response Center for the Mediterranean Sea, or REMPEC. My sincere congratulations on reaching its 40th anniversary. The center's contribution in assisting Mediterranean coastal states to build up their national prevention and preparedness and response capability to prevent and respond to major marine pollution incidents certainly deserves to be celebrated. More than that, its role in helping to facilitate cooperation between countries to prevent and respond to marine pollution should also be acknowledged and appreciated. In 1976, when the center was established under the United Nations interagency project between UNEP and IMO, the center's mandate was firmly focused on assisting the contracting parties of the Barcelona Convention to prepare for and deal with oil spill caused by ships. The Regional Oil Combating Center, in short ROCC, as it was then called, was the first regional center of its kind. It became known as REMPEC in 1989, following the extension of its mandate to include hazardous substances other than oil. Since then, it has contributed significantly to the development and the strengthening of the Mediterranean states' capability to prevent and deal with marine pollution incidents. Today, the center's remit extends beyond dealing with accidental oil spills to much broader mandate to work collaboratively with the Mediterranean states to prevent and combat pollution in all forms. The center's work today addresses pollution from oil and hazardous and noxious substance, surveillance for possible illegal operational discharge, ballast water discharge, emission from ships, and anti-fouling system. It is also working with the countries to ensure the provision of adequate port reception facilities in the main ports around the Mediterranean Sea area. Another important part of its work is to help coordinate efforts to build the capability in national maritime administration to prepare for and deal with the pollution from ships. And this includes developing the legislative and the administrative frameworks needed at the national level. The network of protection for the Mediterranean Sea, encompassing prevention, preparedness, and the response function, is highly appreciated by all IMO member states and indeed the wider maritime communities. And through the effectiveness of its mandate and the work, REMPEC has become a model for the establishment of a similar center in other regions of the world. A key characteristic of the REMPEC success story during the past 40 years has been cooperation. REMPEC itself is operated under and financed by contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention within the framework of the Mediterranean Action Plan of the Regional Seas Program of UNEP. Administered and technically supported by IMO through an agreement with the UNEP, REMPEC is a prime example of a close cooperation between two United Nations bodies working together to protect and preserve the environment. I should like to take this opportunity to thank UNEP for its strong cooperation with the IMO in this and other projects as well. The European Commission and the European Maritime Safety Agency, EMSA, have also been strong and supportive collaborators of REMPEC. And once again, I would like to offer them my thanks and appreciation. IMO is justifiably proud of the role it played in helping to set up RAMPAC and of its continuing work in administering the center. The link between the IMO and the RAMPAC remained very strong, with the IMO making extensive use of the center for the implementation of activities under the organization's Integrated Technical Cooperation Program. Going forward, IMO is committed in its support for the center, and I would like to extend my appreciation to all 22 contracting parties, and especially to the center host country, the government of Malta. Also, my special thanks goes to the Secretariat of the RAMPAC for their hard work and the devotion to date. As I mentioned a moment ago, throughout the past 40 years, RAMPAC has become something of a role model for other regional centers which have been inspired by the center's setup and the programs. This should be a source of a great pride, not only for RAMPAC, but all affiliated bodies, sponsors, government, and individuals. So my congratulations to RAMPAC and all those involved in the work of the center. As we celebrate this important landmark, it is impossible to imagine that your work will ever be finished. And I'm sure that RAMPAC will now look to the next 40 years and continue its valuable efforts to improve cooperation in the Mediterranean to prevent and combat marine pollutions. I know, and also I was told, there is no serious instance in that area for the past few years. But as you know from the major incidents which took place in the past years around the world, as you know well, we have to be ready, we have to be well prepared to properly respond to any possible serious pollution instance, which may, we do not we do not hope those things would happen, but who knows, we have to be prepared. So in that sense, I believe, again, the role and the contribution of RAMPAC has been great in terms of preserving and protecting marine environment in this very vulnerable Mediterranean Sea. And just before here, we were on board a oil combating response ships, which is governed by the EMSA, and it was quite informative and useful to look around. And also it was very nice to see the very well-developed technology in terms of how to respond to oil spill incidents. And also it was a very impressive to hear that good communication, collaboration between the EMSA and the littoral countries and the RAMPAC in terms of the organization and how to respond to the possible incident cases in the future. So I really appreciate those efforts done by all relevant stakeholders. So, and also I would like to enhance good or better communication and cooperation between IMO and RAMPAC and EMSA as well. Also really appreciate again the government of Malta hosting this kind of the activities to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the RAMPAC. So I believe there has been a lot of the effort, a lot of the concern provided by the government of Malta to development, enhancing activities of RAMPAC, so I really appreciate. And I wish you present here all the best, every success. So I hope see you sometime later at other occasion. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Secretary General, for your keynote address. We will now invite Mr. Jan Dusík, Director of Europe Office of the United Nations Environment Programme. Thank you.
Honourable Minister Dr. Jose Herrera, Minister for Sustainable Development, the Environment and Climate Change of Malta, Honourable Minister Joe Mizzi, the Minister of Transport and Infrastructure of Malta, and Honourable Dr. George Vella, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Malta, Mr. Kitack, the Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests. It is a great honour and pleasure to welcome you warmly on behalf of the UN Environment to this high-level meeting for the celebrations of the REMPEC's 40th anniversary. Administered by the International Maritime Organization in the framework of a long-standing and successful cooperation that the Secretary General referred to with UN Environment, hosted and strongly supported by the Government of Malta, REMPEC, under the guidance of the Conference of Parties to the Barcelona Convention and its protocols, has grown over the last 40 years as a centre of excellence to foster regional cooperation and support the Mediterranean countries to successfully cope with the challenges of pollution, prevention and control from the sea-based activities and the shipping sector. We have come today to jointly celebrate the 40th anniversary of REMPEC after celebrating some months ago the 40th anniversary of the Mediterranean Action Plan and of its Barcelona Convention. The UN Environment, establishing its Regional Seas Programme 42 years ago, aimed to support the sustainable management and use of marine and coastal environment and to address effectively the degradation of the world oceans and coastal areas and promote regional cooperation among neighbouring countries in comprehensive and specific actions to protect their shared marine environment. At that time, the major objective was the establishment of regional marine pollution control programs in areas that for geographical, ecological or political reasons were perceived to have common elements and interests. The program has steadily grown and today covers 18 regions of the world, representing virtually all the world's oceans and seas. The Mediterranean was the first ever region to adopt an action plan under the Regional Seas Programme and served as an example for the development of action plans in other regions. The Barcelona Convention and its 7 landmark protocols that lay down in the heart of the Mediterranean Action Plan represent a solid and advanced regional legal framework for the protection of the Mediterranean marine and coastal environment in the context of sustainable development. On the 9th of November 1976, United Nations Environment Programme and International Maritime Organization signed the Memorandum of Understanding concerning cooperation between the two institutions. The areas of mutual interest and cooperation related to pollution incident preparedness, response and cooperation. Since then, IMO and UNEP have contributed to the establishment of various regional centres around the world, including REMPEC, which was the first of its kind and later used as a reference for other regional arrangements. REMPEC doesn't represent only a pioneering and unique experience in the region, but it is also an excellent example of the UN system organizations delivering as one. Let me provide an example of the results of this successful cooperation between UN Environment and IMO. The coordination of the response operations to the Lebanese oil spill of 2006. Indeed, REMPEC set up and coordinated a group of experts to provide immediate advice and technical assistance on response strategy and techniques, to assess resources requirement, and to elaborate the €50 million anti-pollution action plan adopted at the international meeting convened and attended by our Executive Director and the Secretary General of IMO in August 2006. This effort was coordinated with the respective competent national authorities in the region, in liaison with the Mediterranean Action Plan, and in close cooperation with UNEP, OCHA, IMO, the European Commission and other partners. This remarkable example of cooperation between the two institutions, as well as a number of everyday stories, prove that the established partnership between UNEP and the International Maritime Organization has been a remarkable success in addressing global concerns at regional level, especially with regards to the need to effectively respond to and to combat pollution from the maritime sector. The importance of this well-established cooperation is reaffirmed by the fact that combating marine pollution is still very high on UNEP's agenda. We have come a long way from the time of its launch, and many achievements can be recalled. Over the decades, RAMPAC has evolved from a sectorial approach dealing with very specific and technical issues to an integrated approach in line with the UNEP MAP and UN environment priorities, as agreed in the current UNEP MAP medium-term strategy and several decisions of the contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention and its protocols. Ocean governance, marine pollution, reduction and prevention, and green financing represent high priorities for the UN environment. In May 2016, the second session of the United Nations Environment Assembly of UNEP concluded its work in Nairobi, Kenya. More than 170 countries were represented, of which 120 at ministerial level. That extraordinary meeting of governments has produced a number of resolutions that are an integral part of the global action needed to implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Paris Climate Agreement, which this morning has been formally ratified by the European Union. I would like to briefly highlight here the 4 resolutions of UNEA that deal with oceans and seas. First, on oceans and seas, the governments called for continued cooperation and coordination on marine issues and requested UNEP to step up its work, including through the Regional Seas Programme. Secondly, in relation to the roles, functions and modalities for UNEP implementation of the Samoa pathway as a means of facilitating achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, the resolution addresses the need for strengthening the UN system to support small island developing states in keeping with the multiple ongoing and emerging challenges faced by those states in achieving sustainable development. Third, on marine plastic litter and microplastics, where the delegates sought the assistance of UNEP to assess the effectiveness of governance strategies and approaches to combat marine plastic litter and microplastics, and to help develop and implement national and regional action plans to target marine litter, with emphasis on those regions that are the largest sources. And last, sustainable coral reefs management. The resolution constitutes a strong call for national, regional and international initiatives, cooperation and commitments to conserve and sustainably manage coral reefs, including cold water coral ecosystems and mangrove forests that contribute to food security and nutrition for people's livelihoods. The new momentum of global commitments to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals and the renewed commitment of UNEP Mediterranean Action Plan Barcelona Convention contracting parties has opened new perspectives for RAMPAC to play an instrumental role in further enhancing integration and cooperation for addressing relevant emerging issues and promoting the use of up-to-date tools to enhance capacities of the contracting parties. This is crucial to successfully meet global obligations and international standards related to maritime transport, and where appropriate, related to non-indigenous species, ships' ballast water management, particular sensitive sea areas, marine spatial planning for ships' routing systems, control of maritime traffic and waste management in port reception facilities and marinas, including marine litter. This present gathering seems to be the perfect occasion to share the lessons from the past 40 years and to draw together a sustainable Mediterranean region for the future. And as the Secretary General of IMO mentioned, this is the work that is far from being done, and there is still plenty, and the work will be never finished in that sense. But I would like to conclude by wishing a happy anniversary to RAMSEC and congratulations to IMO and the UNEP Mediterranean Action Plan. Thank you.
Mr. Dusík, thank you very much for your kind words. I will now invite the Honourable Dr. José Herrera, Minister for Sustainable Development, the environment and climate change of the government of Malta. Thank you.
Honourable colleagues, Secretary General, Director, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, Chairmen and CEOs of various important Maltese entities connected with the environment and maritime affairs, and distinguished people present. It gives me great honour to address this important event to celebrate RAMPAC's 40th anniversary. Malta is very proud to have hosted this important United Nations institution for 4 decades. And we in the environment sector are especially very proud of RAMPAC and its work to help prevent and coordinate combating of marine pollution from ships in the Mediterranean. One must not forget the continued risks posed to our marine environment through pollution as it affects its ecological equilibrium, its resources, and their legitimate uses. We are all aware of the importance of the Mediterranean Sea for global maritime shipping and at the same time of the semi-enclosed nature of this marine region. This renders it more vulnerable to pollution due to its limited water exchange. It is within this context that pollution events are of particular concern to this marine region. Pollution incidents such as oil spills and associated introduction of pollutants in the marine environment are linked to devastating impacts on marine and coastal ecosystems. The Barcelona Convention for the Protection of the Marine Environment and the Coastal Region of the Mediterranean Sea, under which RAMPAC falls, is an important convention for Malta due to our maritime vocation and geographic location in the Mediterranean Sea. Indeed, Malta attaches high priority and relevance to all matters concerning the Mediterranean region and believes that environmental cooperation represents a strategic tool to contribute to the overall stability of the Mediterranean region. In this respect, Malta believes that the UNEP/MAP Barcelona system is a unique and valuable cooperation system for the protection of the marine environment in the Mediterranean region. Malta has always been actively supportive of the MAP system, particularly RAMPAC, and will continue to highlight the importance of this centre to the Mediterranean region. The Mediterranean Action Plan continues to be an important and necessary tool for the protection of the economic, social, health and cultural value of the marine environment of the Mediterranean Sea area. Malta, along with partners, continues to be committed to the preservation of our common heritage for the benefit and enjoyment of present and future generations. In our opinion, close cooperation among the states and international organizations concerned and a coordinated and comprehensive regional approach for the protection and enhancement of marine environment in the Mediterranean Sea, our area continues to be vital. Over the years, RAMPAC has shown its worth as a regional centre focusing on combating massive marine pollution by oil through its work on strengthening the capacities of coastal states in the Mediterranean region and facilitating cooperation among them. This by establishing a regional information system to deal with marine pollution emergencies and in later years with a particular focus on preventive measures against pollution from ships. Among RAMPAC's achievements, one must mention its assistance for the development of national preparedness systems, its assistance to a group of countries to draft and adopt sub-regional agreements on preparedness and response to spills, assistance to countries in emergency situations, its training programs involving over 3,500 government officials and volunteers, its work on supporting the development of port reception facilities, its assisting to contracting parties in strengthening their legislative framework in order to have dedicated laws for the enforcement of MARPOL in terms of illicit discharges from ships, development of guidance on ballast water management and pollution from private pleasure craft, as well as its more recent work on marine litter in the Mediterranean. In Malta's view, these achievements in the area of capacity building and fostering cooperation between riparian states and the relevant organizations are of the utmost importance for the future. In addition, in terms of assistance to countries in emergency situations through its 24/7 availability, enabling it to be reachable at any time, REMPAC can, on request, assist any contracting parties of the Barcelona Convention in case of an emergency. It can assist not only in the field of marine pollution response techniques, but also in the field of wildlife restoration and the forecasting of pollution drift by means of various partnerships with relevant organizations. Some of these partners indeed provided their services through REMPAC during the oil spill in Lebanon in 2006 and on several other occasions. Furthermore, REMPAC acts as a regional focal point in case of regional and international assistance. It's coordinated at regional level the assistance provided to Lebanon after the 2006 Eastern Mediterranean oil spill and was involved in 2010 during the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, acting as the regional entity to gather information on available response means that could be used in the response operation. It is for these reasons that Malta would like to show its great appreciation for the ongoing excellent work of REMPAC over the years. And I would like to take this opportunity to personally thank the present and past directors and staff of REMPAC for their outstanding work and commitment. In Malta's view, REMPAC should continue to exercise its role in achieving a coherent and coordinated approach towards preventing and combating accidental pollution within the Mediterranean region. Within this context, REMPAC would facilitate regional cooperation across countries who would work together to prevent the deterioration of the environmental status of the Mediterranean region as a result of pollution incidents. This would not only achieve the requirements of the 2002 Prevention and Emergency Protocol and of the Offshore Protocol, but also the overall goals of the Barcelona Convention to protect and improve the marine environment in the Mediterranean. At national level, Malta is implementing a number of measures to ensure the protection of marine areas from ships and maritime activities pollution. For example, an environmental permitting system is in place to regulate commercial establishments with the potential to cause marine pollution, which places conditions on how to mitigate this risk. In addition, Malta's waste management plan also caters for waste derived from such incidents. However, we must not lose sight of the need to make regional cooperation and governance mechanisms more effective in the context of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which acknowledges the important role of regional and sub-regional frameworks to facilitate the effective translation of sustainable development policies into concrete action at the national level. In this respect, Malta reiterates its support for the implementation of the revised Mediterranean Strategy for Sustainable Development, which was reviewed during the 2013-2015 biennium when Malta held the presidency of the Mediterranean Commission on Sustainable Development and adopted earlier this year during the Conference of the Parties for the Barcelona Convention in Athens. The strategy adapts the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, to a Mediterranean context, and Malta believes that it is an invaluable tool for implementing the SDGs in a regional framework in an integrated and holistic way. In conclusion, in view of its important role in fostering the protection of the Mediterranean Sea from pollution in line with the Global 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, I augur that REMPAC continues to render its excellent services to the region in the years ahead. Thank you.
Dr. Jose Herrera, thank you for your words. I will now invite the Honourable Mr. Joy Mizzi, Minister for Transport and Infrastructure of the Government of Malta, for his keynote address.
Mr. Secretary General, fellow ministers and distinguished guests, greetings. As Minister responsible for transport, on behalf of the Maltese government, proud host of REMPAC, I warmly welcome you to Malta. As a former seafarer, on behalf of Maritime Malta, I extend our congratulations to REMPEC on this symbolic milestone, the celebration of the 40th anniversary from its setting up. I would like to begin my short intervention by paying tribute to the many men and women behind the success story of REMPEC. Their dedications reflects their conviction that the prevention of preparedness for and response to marine pollution in the Mediterranean are of paramount importance for the survival of many people living around this important enclosed sea. This immediately brings to the fore the critical importance of the need to take to the world the indispensable role of the shipping industry, without which our daily lives would be unsustainable. Malta once again reiterates its full support to the theme of this year's World Maritime Day. My government has recognized the indispensable role that the shipping industry has to the island and the added value it generates in Malta's economy. Malta has increasingly become aware of the fact that sea's relevance is not only limited to their exploitation for commercial and communications purposes, but goes as far as to affect the very survival of the human and other species on land. This will not be possible if we have polluted seas. This is where REMPEC plays a very important role. REMPEC is to make sure that littoral states of the Mediterranean coordinate their efforts towards further strengthening their capacities with a view to abating, combating, and to the fullest extent eliminating pollution of the marine environment. Our support for the global approach to IMO goes on the same pace with our appreciation of the importance of regional cooperation. This is evidenced by our commitment to the Mediterranean Action Plan established under the Barcelona Convention. I am extremely proud to witness the anniversary of this prestigious institution, which for 40 years has served as a beacon for many government advisors, experts, diplomats, and many others engaged in the maritime industry to enhance their knowledge and to be prepared to combat pollution in the Mediterranean Sea, given their contribution to strengthen the cooperation among Mediterranean countries. REMPEC was established and sustained in Malta thanks to the strong will and the enlightened interest of successive Maltese governments to establish Malta as a center of maritime excellence, and in giving our contribution for making a difference in the maritime sector. Our belief and continuous commitment in supporting technical cooperation projects and in tirelessly serving the maritime community with the global aim to preserve the seas as a common heritage of mankind for the next generations makes Malta proud of its close association with the vision that was REMPEC and with the realization of that vision. The Maltese government has been there from the very early days, and not only has its support not faltered, but it has increased over the years. We are firmly committed to continue affording REMPEC our unfaltering support for the benefit of the Mediterranean Sea and its littoral states. In conclusion, I started this presentation with words of greetings from the government of Malta and from Maritime Malta. I shall end with a solemn reiteration of Malta's support via MoFilm and the belief that it is this organization that should lead the program for safer and more secure shipping and cleaner oceans, and of Malta's support for REMPEC, firm in the belief of the great benefits of regional cooperation in the Mediterranean for the benefit of its littoral states and their people. Ad multos annos REMPEC.
Thank you very much, Sir Joe Mizzi. I will now invite the Honourable Dr. George Vella, Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Government of Malta, who will also be the chairperson for this meeting.
Honourable colleagues, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The 40th anniversary of the establishment of the Regional Oil Combating Centre, as it used to be known, the ROCC, the precursor of the present Regional Marine Pollution Emergency Response Centre for the Mediterranean, which we are calling REMPEC, here in Malta, is an occasion that warrants special commemoration. I am immensely pleased of REMPEC's commitment towards the achievement of the goals set by the international maritime community. Today's event puts under the limelight this world-class regional centre, specializing in combating accidental marine pollution, mostly from hydrocarbons, and operating for the past 40 years, fully committed to Mediterranean maritime cooperation. 1976 was 9 years after the Torrey Canyon had spilled 121,000 tons of Kuwaiti crude oil after grounding on the Scilly Islands. Hundreds of kilometers of English and French coast suffered serious pollution, with huge environmental and ecological as well as economic damage. In those 9 intervening years, many maritime disasters happened. Landmark events that sensitized the conscience of the international community. Enough to mention just a few: the Spiros Lemnos, the Polycommander, Sabine, Donna Marica, Universe Leader, Jacob Merckx, Olympic Alliance, and others, to be followed then by the Pacific Glory in 1976, by the Orquiola and the Berlin maritime disasters. The next major disaster was that of the Amoco Cadets in March 98, spilling a record 228,000 tons of light Arab and Iranian crude on the Brittany coast. This last event was the largest maritime pollution disaster ever. Thankfully, no disasters of such magnitude happened in the Mediterranean. However, the Mediterranean also had its fair share of shipping accidents, with the then ROCC reporting in its early years of 6 cases in 1977, 11 in 1978, 10 cases in 1979, and 12 cases in 1980, between collisions, groundings, damage, wrong maneuvers, and other causes of accidents. The earliest modern international convention for the protection of pollution of the sea by oil goes back to the 1954 London Convention. Legislation followed to cover other aspects of marine pollution, such as from dumping of wastes and from land-based sources, and covering different regions, such as the Nordic Sea, with the Nordic Agreement, the Baltic Sea, and other agreements. It was in 1976 that the Barcelona Convention for the Protection of the Mediterranean Sea against pollution was agreed to. It was from the plan for action of this convention that the then ROCC, the first of its kind in the world, was conceived. Our country's commitment towards a world of nations governed by principles of mutual cooperation and understanding, and underpinned by the rule of law, has been prominently manifested throughout our history. Malta's initiatives within the United Nations on issues relating to the environment are well known. One such major contribution is exemplified by the seminal concepts relating to the seas and the seabed as part of the common heritage of mankind, pioneered at the time by Dr. Arvid Pardo, Malta's former UN ambassador. This proposal, presented on the 1st of November 1967, spearheaded a treaty to prevent an arms race under the sea, dealing with the dangers of a potential competitive scramble for oil, minerals, and other underwater riches. A law of the sea as we know it today would eventually materialize in 1982. Under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, known as UNCLOS, participating states are bound to protect and preserve the marine environment and shall take measures to prevent, reduce, and control all types of pollution of the marine environment. Indeed, REMPEC is the embodiment of this general obligation. Since 1976, ROCC and then REMPEC has supported Mediterranean states in combating oil pollution ever since. Celebrating 40 years since its inception also means celebrating 40 years of achievement. The Centre's original mandate to strengthen the capacities of coastal states in the Mediterranean and to assist in combating marine pollution by oil has been broadened over the years to address also other sources of pollution that could threaten the Mediterranean. Through its work towards developing and bolstering national capacities to combat pollution, mostly by hydrocarbons, and the establishment of a regional information center to deal with marine pollution emergencies, REMPEC has built itself a solid reputation in the field. As I have already mentioned, this year also marks the 40th anniversary of the Barcelona Convention, which, together with the Mediterranean Action Plan, represents one of the most advanced legal regimes for regional cooperation and the framework under which REMPEC operates. Within the MAP system, the first ever regional agreement under the United Nations Environment Programme, REMPEC has constantly reiterated its call in preventing and responding to marine pollution from ships. Excellencies, taking this opportunity, Malta would like to express its appreciation for the work conducted by REMPEC, operating under UNEP, MAP, and the International Maritime Organization, in its mandate to protect the marine environment. In this regard, the Government of Malta will continue steadfastly to support REMPEC in its regional mission in the years to come. For an island state like Malta, the sea has always been our vocation. The Mediterranean and our maritime activities have ultimately shaped and steered our relations with our neighbours and with Mediterranean friends. All of this comes at a key moment for the Mediterranean and Europe. As we celebrate this 40th anniversary, let us recall the importance of regional cooperation to ensure a sustainable and healthy Mediterranean that we can confidently and responsibly pass on to future generations. Thank you very much.